if I were to wager a guess, I would surmise that most of you come into Christmas with a set of expectations. And those expectations often revolve around the sameness of the season, all of the traditions, all of the nostalgia, which is a part of how we celebrate Christmas. Just think about your schedule for a moment. On Christmas Eve, who do you celebrate with? On Christmas Day, who do you celebrate with? And it's not just who we celebrate with, but it's how we choose to celebrate. Like when it comes to opening presents. Like, is it in an orderly fashion? Or is it a free-for-all? Or when it comes to the foods that are brought, right? Am I alone in this? There are a certain set of expectations that we have. Like Grandma's going to have her mashed potatoes. She does every year. She better. It's not Christmas. Or what about those pickle roll-ups? Like somebody always brings the pickle roll-ups to Christmas, right? It's like we have this set of expectations. And even when it comes to where we are tonight, the service preference that we have. Okay, are you a 3 o'clock family service? Are you a 5 o'clock candlelight service? A 7 o'clock candlelight service? Like we have these preferences and expectations, and especially with a candlelight service. There's that expectation that at the end of the service, we're going to dim the lights, pass and light candles, and sing that hymn, Silent Night. Right? We all come into Christmas with a set of expectations around what is familiar, around the traditions. And I get it. I understand that, and I share those same set of expectations with you. But here's what I want us to see. When it comes to the first Christmas, it was filled with the unexpected. Tonight we're going to look at Luke chapter 2, and you see for Mary and Joseph, I mean, this is a text that we are so familiar with. We hear it year after year after year. Many of us have heard this text for decades. We can recite it by heart. It is so familiar to us, and yet sometimes in that we can lose sight of all of the unexpected elements that are part of that first Christmas. And what we'll see is that for Mary and Joseph, amidst all of those unexpected moments, they experience something. They experience the unexpected love of God. So, we're just going to briefly look at this text, and I want to pull out two different unexpected elements for us to examine tonight. And the first is to recognize that the Christmas story involves unexpected travel arrangements. Now, most of you have expectations around who you're going to be celebrating Christmas with. And either that involves you traveling to be with somebody else, or somebody else traveling to be with you. But sometimes, not everybody makes it. Sometimes the unexpected happens. Should we compare and contrast this year from last year? Like, you remember? This year, 55 degrees for a high today and rain. Last year dropped 50 degrees off. And all of the wetness that we're getting now in the form of rain, that was snow last year. And I remember one of my brothers was out in Salt Lake City, Utah, and he was flying in on Christmas Day, at least he was supposed to. And I was supposed to pick him up from the airport. Well, he had a connecting flight through Denver. And I remember getting a call from him, I'm like, hey, how's your flight? He's like, right now we're delayed. There's nothing that's flying into MSP. And then I got another call saying, yeah, my flight has been canceled. And at that point in time, he had to make a decision. Like, is he going to turn around and just go back to Salt Lake City and miss our family Christmas? No, he pushed on, and he found a nice agent who was able to set him up with a voucher for a hotel for overnight and then a flight out the next morning. And so eventually he did make it for Christmas. But we know that the unexpected happens when it comes to travel arrangements around Christmas. But here's what's often the case when it comes to unexpected travel arrangements around Christmas. It often prevents us from getting where we want to go. But that first Christmas, the unexpected travel arrangements actually sent them somewhere they did not expect to go. Because Mary and Joseph, that first Christmas, they were ready to settle down and stay home and celebrate Christmas there in Nazareth. But then we look at Luke chapter 2 and let's see what happens. In those days, Caesar Augustus issued a decree that a census should be taken of the entire Roman world. And everyone went to their own town to register. So Joseph also went up from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judea, to Bethlehem, the town of David, because he belonged to the house and line of David. He went there to register with Mary, who was pledged to be married to him and was expecting a child. What disrupts Mary and Joseph's first Christmas plan? A massive census. Now, we understand censuses here in the United States of America. Every 10 years there's a census that's taken. In the last couple of years we had another census. And you can tell when a census has been taken because the population sign is changed in that particular city. But I'm wondering, am I the only one who is confused? Because in Norwood Young America, I don't honestly know what our current population is. Because if you look at some signs, it says 3,992. Have anybody else noticed this, or am I the only one? And then, look around. There are other signs that say 3,863. I don't know what it's supposed to be. But regardless of our modern day census, we can look back to the ancient Roman world. And this census that took place surrounding the time of the birth of Jesus revealed a population of over 55 million people. And the instructions were, everybody needs to return to their hometown to register. So, massive fruit basket upset, and everybody is hitting the roads and returning to their hometowns. And so here's Mary, 9 months pregnant. By the way, ladies, what do you want to be doing when you're 9 months pregnant? You don't want to go anywhere. And yet Mary is forced, along with her husband to be Joseph, to travel from Nazareth down to Bethlehem, about a 90-mile journey. It's unexpected for them. And when they get to Bethlehem, something else unexpected happens. Because this Christmas story not only involves unexpected travel arrangements, it involves unexpected housing accommodations. So you get to Luke chapter 2, verse 6 and 7. While they were there in Bethlehem, the time came for the baby to be born. And she gave birth to her firstborn, a son. She wrapped him in cloths, and then here's a clue as to where she gave birth, and placed him in a manger. Yeah, not the housing accommodations that they were expecting. By the way, this reminds me of a video that I watched from comedian John Crist. And he's kind of spoofing on the first Christmas story as if it were taking place in the 21st century. And I want you just to watch a portion of it, especially when it comes to the housing accommodations. Let's watch.
Listen, if we're going to go all the way up there, we should probably spend the night. I'm trying to find a hotel. I literally can't find anything. Everything's booked.
Use your Marriott points.
Everything's blacked out.
Okay. Well, I just found an Airbnb.
Okay.
Looks like it's a rustic barn. A full immersive experience. There are live barn animals. Just think about the photo op. You,
Okay, well,
me, the baby, and this guy.
That's one way to look at it, right? A rustic barn Airbnb. But yes, that's where Mary gave birth. By the way, ladies, where do you expect to give birth? Most of you would say, I hope that I'm in a hospital when I give birth. Some of you, maybe there's a trend these days to actually giving birth at home using a midwife or a doula. But my guess is most of you are not saying a barn. I would love to be able to give birth in a barn. Because you know what's in a barn? Not the most sanitary of conditions. Like, you've got piles and piles of manure and animals that are stinky and slobbery. And where did Mary place Jesus? In a manger, which is a feeding trough for animals. Yeah, not the expected housing accommodations that they wanted. And so you look at the Christmas story as it unfolds, and you have unexpected travel arrangements and unexpected housing accommodations. And it makes you wonder why. Like, why do things unfold in the story this way? And what's the meaning behind all of it? And there's a number of different answers that can be given. But here's the one that I want to focus on for you tonight. Because we have a God who gets us. Because God wants to show that He gets us. By the way, if you recognize this phrase, it's a massive advertising campaign right now. It's a 3-year campaign where people have contributed $1 billion to make sure that everybody in this world knows that we have a God who gets us. And the commercials are very, very simple. Many of them are just black and white, still pictures with a voiceover. Looking at the life of a particular individual amidst the challenges and the struggles that they face. Those moments where they find themselves isolated. Those moments where they find themselves in a difficult family situation. Maybe where they're struggling to make ends meet at work. And at the end of every single one of those little 30-second ads, it ends with these words. He gets us. All of us. Jesus. And that's the Christmas story. That we have a God who doesn't steer clear of the mess, but instead steps into it. Hebrews chapter 2 shares these words. It says that He shared in our humanity, being fully human in every way. In every way. All of it. He gets it. All of the mess, all of the muck, all of that manure that piles up in your life. It's not just a barn where we find piles of manure. If we're honest, we find them in our lives as well. And some of you are here tonight and you are wading around in a pile of manure, and it is piling up. And what I want you to know is whatever you're going through, we have a God who says, I get it. I understand what you are going through. If you had a long, exhausting day, He gets it. Has Christmas with the family been hard for you this year? He gets it. Have you been betrayed by a friend? He gets it. Has somebody twisted your words and taken them out of context? He gets it. Have you been hurt by the church? He gets it. Have you experienced excruciating pain? He gets it. Have you experienced an untimely death and loss in your life? Jesus gets it. All of it. And so in those unexpected moments where we find ourselves, we encounter and we experience the unexpected love of Jesus. So I'm reminded of the story behind George Washington's tent. And by the way, if you're not familiar with it, just Google it sometime. Or if you're someone who wants to take a trip to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, to the Museum of the American Revolution. It's fascinating. See, for the last 250 years, George Washington's tent has been handed down from owner to owner, and now it's on display in a room in Philadelphia. But before they take you into that room, they show you a video, and they tell you the story behind George Washington's tent. Because George Washington, arguably one of the greatest generals in the history of our country, pitched his tent in the midst of his men. Not on Mount Vernon, he could have. Not with family or friends, he could have done that too. No, he pitched his tent in the middle of his men, in the frigidness of the winter, and in the sweltering heat of the summer. He pitched his tent in the middle of the men that he was fighting beside and fighting for. And you ask yourself, who does that? I mean, this is like a CEO of $1 billion company. Rather than taking that corner office, he chooses to put his desk and do his work with the interns. Who does that? Like, this is like the parents, maybe even the grandparents, who have that king-size bed that offers them comfort, and yet the grandkids are having a sleepover, and so they take that air mattress and they blow it up. You know that one that deflates halfway through the middle of the night? They take that air mattress and they blow it up and they sleep there with those kids. Who does that? By the way, you look at the story of George Washington, and I can't help but say, as a pastor, like, this is not just about George Washington. As great a general as he was, this is ultimately a glimpse of another general who leads us forward, Jesus. And John chapter 1 verse 14 says that Jesus left his glories of eternity and chose to dwell amongst us. The word literally means he tented amongst us. In the middle of the muck and the mess of our lives, he tented amongst us. In the sweltering heat and in the frigid cold. In those moments in life where the greatest injustices and atrocities happen in our world, and at the same time the greatest successes that we've seen. Jesus came and dwelt among us. He meets us in that mess. In all of those unexpected moments, Jesus gets us. And that's what I want you to walk out of here knowing this Christmas. Some of you, your expectations for Christmas this year are going to be unmet. Because maybe there's a divorce that's happened. Or maybe there's been a death in the family. Or maybe there's been an unexpected illness that prevents you from all being gathered together as a family. There are those moments where the unexpected happens. And at the same time, even if this Christmas for you is everything that you expected, even if everybody gets together, even if you have those pickle roll-ups, and everything is the way that it should be, here's what I want you to know. That time is coming where the unexpected is going to happen. And what do we do when the unexpected happens? What if, rather than letting it cause us to crumble and question ourselves, what if this Christmas we chose to see in those unexpected moments of life that we have a God who steps into the muck, into the mess, who wades through all of the manure that life throws at us, because he gets us. All of us. His name